All right, let's move on to the second question. How do mass movements make people fanatical? Fanatical mass movements often manifest through members' unparalleled unity and intense spirit of self-sacrifice. Lebon discusses conversion psychology in his book, The Crowd. Return as in return, ye as in number one. This means participants automatically lower their mental faculties to follow the group's ideology and pace. Hoffer shares similar observations about frustrated individuals developing self-diminishing attitudes after joining movements. Self-diminishing, zi as in oneself, queuing as in belittling, literally meaning looking down on oneself. This mindset maintains loyalty to the collective. Members must mentally separate from their physical selves to become idealized collective entities. Only through continuous self-diminishment and devotion can participants fully embody the movement's imagined collective self. Now let's examine specific operational methods. I'll focus on 4 primary techniques. First, creating a doctrinal system, the ideological foundation guiding the movement. Hoffer argues effective doctrine isn't about profundity or moral elevation, but one simple criterion: its ability to completely isolate believers from external intellectual influences. True believers demonstrate willful blindness, consciously ignoring realities contradicting the doctrine. This deliberate ignorance maintains alignment with collective ideology. Second technique, ritual engineering. Mass rallies, propaganda teams, synchronized movements all dissolve individuality into collective consciousness. Example, the goose step originated in Nazi Germany to eliminate individual rhythm in favor of mechanical uniformity. Third method, systematic propaganda operating through dual channels. First channel, reinforcing individual insignificance and inherent guilt, while relentlessly attacking current conditions. How terrible! Only by devaluing individual worth to the extreme can collective glory become worth pursuing. Only by making current conditions sound worse can future value be amplified. The second propaganda direction, cultivating shared hatred. This is particularly crucial. Common hatred unites groups with no inherent affinity, consolidating more members. When Hitler designated Jews as devils, he portrayed nearly everyone outside Germany as Jewish collaborators. Whether Britain, France, or America, all were claimed to be controlled by Jewish puppet masters. By grotesquely exaggerating Jewish power through propaganda, propagandists deepened national fear and brutality. Fourth method, control mechanisms, primarily material and informational domination. Material control manifests through collective distribution of basic necessities. Information control involves censorship of literature and arts. Both methods effectively stifle creativity and critical thinking, eroding self-identity. When basic needs are strangled, how can creativity or autonomy survive? Let's summarize part 2. Frustrated individuals gain unity and self-sacrificial zeal through mass movements. Through doctrine, rituals, propaganda, and control, movements enforce self-diminishment to gain collective validation. Collective influence molds individuals into increasingly fanatical participants. Fanatical activist devotion fuels movements' intensity. Their tactical awareness propels growth, with leaders being pivotal. Mass psychology experts like Lebon and Hoffer extensively analyze leadership in works like The Crowd. The varying personalities, visions, and determination of leaders ultimately determine a movement's success or failure. Thus, our final question: what role do leaders play in mass movements? Hoffer analyzes leadership through movement phases rather than personal traits. He categorizes leaders into 3 types: men of words during incubation, fanatics during momentum, and practical men of action at climax. Let's analyze these leadership archetypes sequentially. First, the men of words, masters of rhetoric. Hoffer's men of words primarily refer to intellectuals, specifically professors, writers, artists, clergy, fortune tellers, plus modern media professionals, lawyers, and opinion leaders. Hoffer sees them as vain yet naive. Vain in critiquing existing systems while sympathizing with movements. Naive in believing individual value and freedom can coexist with mass movements. But as movements require self-negation, power eventually goes to those despising individualism. Hence, regimes recognize intellectuals' importance. Co-opting them maintains stability, as with the Qing co-opting Zhuo Zongtang. Contrast Hong Xiuquan, triple exam failure turned Qing destroying Taiping leader. Fanatics differ from frustrated followers. They emerge from uncreative men of words. The author cites Nazi leaders, many being failed artists, as examples. Hitler studied painting, Goebbels wrote plays, core Nazi propagandists. Rosenberg dabbled in architecture and philosophy. These uncreative intellectuals channeled frustration into fanatical movements. If fanatics are fish, chaos is their water. Severe government corruption excites fanatics. It hastens the old regime's collapse. When systems become irredeemable, fanatics gain euphoric determination. They crave unity and self-sacrifice, merging their lives into revolutionary crucibles. Unlike men of words, fanatics see nothing beyond the movement. They disregard individual lives. Only movement success matters, even at personal cost. The movement provides ultimate belonging. Family ties become secondary. Finally, practical men of action, movement consolidators. True leaders wield power to steer movements. Hoffer's triad. Wordsmen initiate, fanatics conquer, action men institutionalize. Action men blend all three archetypes' characteristics. Lincoln, Gandhi, Churchill, Hitler, all combine these traits differently. Lincoln, Gandhi, Churchill allegedly channeled movements for national salvation. Hitler conversely weaponized movements for personal power. The book avoids moral judgments, focusing on mechanics over ethics. Ultimately, action men must sustain collective unity and sacrificial zeal. Therefore, they must continue providing distant hopes, dreams, and visions to the disillusioned while consolidating new order through pragmatic governance. All right, that concludes part 3. To summarize, men of words significantly influence movement emergence, while untalented ones may degenerate into fanatics. They excel at fishing in troubled waters. Practical men of action emerge. True leaders amalgamate traits of wordsmen, fanatics, and action men. They hold real movement power. Finally, let's revisit the true believer's core concepts. Author Eric Hoffer. From hobo to longshoreman to Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient. Lived through hardships, yet achieved recognition through relentless intellectual pursuit. His ground-level observations revolutionized understanding of mass movements. Hoffer focused on movements' ascendant phases. He discovered mutual attraction between movements and the disaffected, offering hope versus providing recruits. Marginalized individuals yearn for belonging through collective purpose. Thus, movements shape participants' consciousness through radicalization. The synergy of wordsmen, fanatics, and action men propels movements forward. Leaders develop doctrines, rituals, propaganda machines to control thought and life. Movements possess cataclysmic power. Their moral valence depends on leadership. Great leaders can harness movements for national rejuvenation. That concludes our analysis of the true believer. Find show notes below. Until tomorrow.